for staying with us. This is Prime Edition. My name is Betty Kiptum and Lucy Moura is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Over the next half hour or so, we want to start now to have our interactive session in studio and discuss an issue that has been plaguing Kenya, collapsed buildings. It is estimated that over 200 structural collapses have happened since the year 1996. Between 2009 and 2019 alone, 86 buildings collapsed. The highest was in 2015 at 21. And we just want to figure out what is happening and why are buildings collapsing in Kenya. To have this conversation with me in studio is Engineer Evans Goro. Welcome on set.
Thank you.
Those are very worrying numbers. People have lost their lives to these collapsed buildings. The most recent one was the South Sea building collapse. And 2 people lost their lives there. What is happening? Why are buildings collapsing in Kenya?
Well, in the building industry, there are things we have to look at the natural way and natural professionally, which are neglected very, very heavily. There's a lot of professionalism being pushed aside by other arms of other systems. And this is quite well spread in most, at least the 2 basic professional industries that handle a lot of money. That is construction and medical. There are a lot of malpractices happening, and like you said, there is a lot of collapsing building. That means something is collapsing. And for it to collapse, we have to look at how it is generated, how it is carried through up to the point of implementation, where during or after implementation, there is failure that leads to collapsing. And the best issue is look at the practical, well-written laws and bylaws in Kenya documents, which are highly ignored. When we talk of a building industry, the first thing we look at what is going to be built and what is the end product. For that to happen, there are many professional fingers to touch it. There is the land. There is the planning. These are one of the first major steps that must be respected. It doesn't matter what it is going to be built or not. First, those must be respected. After those are within the operation parameters, then you go to the other levels of the actual project to be implemented, whether it is viable and what is it for, and then start narrowing down to serious professionalism required at each different discipline. Now here in Kenya, it is that plot, we need a building this high. Let's get somebody to do it. That's the way I see it, that it is done. But that is not the professional way. The planner is supposed to look at that within this area, the population is this way, the infrastructure is this, that is water, sewage, accessibility, and other environmental issues are properly there. Then before he goes into more details, do you need environmental, you need geotechnical, and other issues looked at. It is when those are now being addressed, you come to space usage, the architectural input, and when the architectural input is within the progress of maybe 25% in proposal, then the structural input starts coming in.
Okay.
And when they come in, that is when they discuss with the architect as to the frames and slabs and whatnot and depths and levels. And where they're still there, then he looks at the material available, the structural engineer, to sustain the system the way the architect space is required. Now, when they are comparing and agreeing on various professional inputs into the end product, now they come even to discuss issues about the height. Because after 15, 18 meters high of a building, in most parts of Kenya, the horizontal pushes and the earthquakes are the most critical. Look at the building you said in South Sea.
Yeah.
It was not 14 or 15 stories. Yes. If you look at that height and the picture of the column we saw in the media, you can see obviously why it failed.
Now, 80% of construction that happens in Kenya is done informally. No one goes through the channels that are supposed to be gone through. But even the 20% that is done formally, there are still problems, as you said. There's the issue of corruption. Corruption is a big problem because even at the approval stage, and then once they are approved, people are not following the approved designs. Why is this the case?
In this so-called bylaw of the laws of Kenya, everything is written, and if you break or you don't follow them, you're supposed to be handled the legal professional way. Who is to handle you? The authority on the ground. Looking at a domestic house, when it is still at preliminary stage, the planner is supposed to talk with the structural engineer and the architect and tell them, on this plot, you can cover this percentage of the plot with a building. And if this plot is 50 by 100, that is 5,000 square meters, the floor area is given a ratio to that plot size. Like you can be told here, the ratio is 5. So you can only build floors that add up to 5 times that plot area. Then with that, you're told you can cover it only 50%. With that, they are able to design with those parameters, but you can use less. And then there are other controls that if you build apartments, they are told that every 2 apartments must have 3 parkings. And that is not, we never see it. That means the approval by the local authority is illegal. Because once you follow the plot ratio and the plot coverage and plot parkings per house, then the architect is now able to relate well with the others. But from an inch down the street, if you look at developments in Kirideshwa and Lavington, where the plot ratio, I assume it is 5% of 50% coverage and 5% of the plot size and 3 parkings per apartment, that doesn't seem to be met anywhere. And somebody should tell us why that is not being followed. And incidentally, these areas, they are called zone 3, 5, and 6. When I used to sit in the development board in City Hall, the ratios were to be approved after the roads, the water, the sewage, and all the necessary infrastructure have been approved and expanded. When I was sitting there, none of that infrastructure has changed. But ratios, even those proposed then and were not approved then, are being superseded. So who is not following the law? When something fails, the big word being put into the media is the contractor. And that is where I get to see that people, the users, do not know where the failure is. What does a contractor do? He builds, implements from specifications and details provided by the consultants. That is our law. So here the contractor is not failing because he's following the proper document. If the documents are not proper, then the consultants have failed. And if the consultants have failed, but they have got local authority approval, then even the local authority has failed. But there are a lot of things that are happening where even the developer comes to manipulate and says, this is my project. I don't want this guy. The law says you cannot use an architectural drawing and give it to another architect without authority from the original designer. And if the original designer wants to hand it over, he puts formal instructions to the approving authority and to the legal authorities to say, now so-and-so can use my specification and design. All his specifications and design are all withdrawn, removed and demolished, and a new project starts. Mm-hmm. But we see here, maybe quoting areas from what Wananchi said, there are approved drawings for a 15-story building somewhere in Nairobi.
It's okay.
Somewhere in Nairobi that were designed by engineer ABCD, and construction is being supervised by engineer XYZ.
Right. Let me just pause you there for a second. There's something that we need to fix. We want to take a quick break here on Prime Edition. When we come back, this conversation continues on exactly why buildings are collapsing in this country. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us and welcome back to Prime Edition. I am with Engineer Evans Goro. We are discussing the reasons as to why buildings are collapsing in Kenya. Thank you for staying with us, Engineer. Now, there are authorities that are supposed to make sure that these processes are followed and that constructions are done by the book. Because
yes.
At the end of the day, this is about human life. We have to keep people safe. So why are there loopholes? Why are the authorities failing?
One, I've given a brief description of the professionals. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When these professionals do their work and specify material, that material is supposed to be used as specified. And when the contractor is quoting, he quotes that specified material with the quantities given by the consultants. And those are the quantities to be used. And there is a construction program. And within that construction program, there is even written regulation where it says the consultants shall visit sites in this kind of frequency, which should not exceed 14 days. Mm-hmm. But that sometimes is not followed because some people come into play, and mostly it is the local authority and the developer. Once construction starts, that land becomes an operational area and it is handed to the contractor who is to be supervised by the consultants. But the developer or the owner of the project can visit on notification of those two parties, the construction party and the consultant party. But he cannot give instructions to the contractor unless through the consultants. So sometimes he'll come and give instructions to the contractor that will affect the materials. That he can say, the bit you have quoted here is costing so much, but the cement we know costs so much. So can you change it from this to this? Cement is a product that is manufactured for certain purposes. Not all cement is for reinforced structural member. Mm-hmm. There is cement for plaster, cement for every part. But if you take the cheaper one and use it in the wrong place, it will fail because of the behavior and strength as required are not being met. And that is there very, very openly, eye-open in Kenya, that there is cement for plaster made by a certain company, name withheld professionally, mm-hmm. that is used for reinforced concrete. And in the bag, it is written grade 32.5, because for reinforced concrete, the grades are written on the side. Yet the material inside does not meet that grade. Research has been done and proven that that cement is not even good for plaster, but it is there. And some of the developers will insist, you buy my cement from this and this company, and this is being, there's media literature going around that all government projects say their cement must be bought from a certain company. And then when we go to the reinforcement bars, they are of specific behavior, strength, and all scientific controls that we use in the books of analysis, the compression, the tension, the torsion strength, all that, that must be met for them to be used for structural members. So seeing these collapsing systems and a bit of the university laboratories, research has been done and found out that most of the reinforced being used for reinforced concrete members do not meet the professional specification as required. In fact, most of it is at 48, 49% of the specificational behavior required. And it's even worse when it is put on a technical, what you call it, microscope. You can see it has impurities and bubbles. That means those impurities and bubbles will continue degenerating because of oxidation and whatnot, and that member of that steel will be maybe 10% the capacity in 4 years' time. And this building, if it is 12 stories, and this thing is 10%, it will not even reach 36 months before it collapses.
Right.
Yes, and that is the failure we have of professionalism being pushed aside, inferior material being brought on side, and some authoritative arms saying that material of this and this must be bought from this and this supplier. Yes.
Right. Just to give some statistics, according to a report done by Kenya Bureau of Statistics, Bureau of Standards, rather, KEBS, in 2022, 3 out of 5 cement samples failed to meet required standards for compressives. 3 out of 5. So that is.
Yeah, I can pick. I know those 3 and I know those 5.
Okay. Right. So what is the way forward? Because it really looks like a very grim situation for Kenyans. According to National Construction Authority, 58% of buildings in Nairobi are unfit for habitation. And so Kenyans are wondering, is there any solution to this?
Okay, now let's look at the other thing now. We talked about the contractor being managed, controlled by the professionals. National Construction Authority, when they say unfit for human habitation, what are they looking at? The design or the material or the contractor's participation? Because we need to get the right people in the right operational room. Just like in the medical world, you have a doctor and a nurse in 2 different places because the doctor gives instruction to the nurse to implement. And we are having a lot of failure in that. And I think there's a lot of malpracticing into that, where there was even complaints by consultants saying National Construction Authority should be dealing with contractors, not consultants. And they should help us manage and understand that the contractors have understanding of the material we have specified, but not to tell the consultant architect, how to specify material. The nurse does not tell the doctor the medicine to prescribe. But that has come into play because of the financial outlay. Like if you look at a project, it has a budget.
Okay.
Call it 100 shillings. All that laid out, professionals will take about 15 to 18% of their 100 shillings. The rest will go to construction material and specification. So this guy with 84% is the one that is being pushed around by authorities and other arms so that corruptions can be played and it is not seen clearly. Yes, and this has been discussed a lot in the Building Industry Forum. I even presented a paper into that we follow procedure step by step. Where the consultants, just like a doctor gives specification to the nurse implements. So we have total management of the contractors and suppliers instead of them telling us what to specify. although they have a play, when you specify a material and it's not easily available, they come and ask for guidance from the consultants.
Okay.
But there is that manipulation that is in play that people are calling corruption. And we should not say a contractor fails. There are those who have specified. And on the other hand, the contractor should not use what is not specified unless revised revision and signed document is done.
Right. Definitely there is a lot to talk about. I'm informed that we've run out of time. Let me just give you 30 seconds to give us your closing remarks.
Yes, our closing remark, and we should look at it very critically, is we have a lot of foreign companies that are building here. And we did a visitation and a research on a few projects done by foreign countries. And you will notice all the projects they are doing, they hide everything. They don't put their signboards. And it is a law, the signboard of construction should be on the roadside. Like what is being built near Bomas, nobody knows what it is. And there is a law that the signboard and the approval details should be there. Mm-hmm. And some of these people do not have capacity better than Kenyans. We have the capacity. We don't see why these foreigners are coming, maybe because they are lending us the money, but they should associate with us.
Okay.
Even if they're helping us with money, so that some of the laws and design codes are followed. Like the Chinese design code is not usable in Kenya. We have to revise it. Mm-hmm. And therefore, those design codes might bring collapse because of different environmental and material controls, which are very different from what we use for design.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Engineer, for sharing your thoughts. It's important to deal with the corruption bit of it and also to align our regulations. That is Engineer Evans Goro just making sense of the buildings that are collapsing in Kenya, 200 since 1996, and he says a lot needs to change.